Welcome to the Meditation Realm, Planeswalkers. I'm Caleb, your guide to these blind eternities, and in today's video, we're checking out the Fallout Commander deck, Hail Caesar. We're going to check out the sweet new Commander cards and all the sweet cards that Mr. Caesar here is playing. No, it's not the Caesar the Chimp from the Planet of the Apes. That'll be a sweet alternate art if one of y'all want to make that for your Commander deck. Nope, this is the Caesar from Fallout and all the sweet baddies from the apocalyptic universe of the post-nuclear war. We will check out what goodies we have in store here. See our sweet new collector pack. See if we can get anything lucky in there. I've yet to open up a mythic, and so hopefully we'll make up for it here and get ourselves a nice sweet mythic foil in this one. Alright, it's got the usual inserts and punch outs, the 1/1 counters and whatnot. All the usual goodies that some people like to use, other people are like me, don't really use those tokens. But, you know, they're free and they're accessible, so I know a lot of Commander players do utilize them, and I highly recommend doing so if you don't have easy access to a ton of dice. Alright, Caesar himself, the front face of the deck is a 4/4 legendary creature for 4, 1, a red, a black, and a white. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. You can either create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. You draw a card and you lose a life, or Caesar deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So this is a gold-wide deck basically, because especially that last ability, just being able to dome your opponent for it's only a target opponent, but still being able to dome an opponent for a number of tokens you control. Oof, that can get out of hand with all the 1/1s you can create. Now, this is the other one that most people have been building around and why a lot of cards are going up. We have Mr. House, the President and CEO. He's a 0/4 for a red, a white, and a black. Whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. If you rolled a 6 or higher, instead create that token and a treasure token. You can pay 4 to roll a 6-sided die, plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasures spent to activate this ability. So you could get, spend 4 die, roll this, you're going to roll a total of 5 6-sided die. You could get, heavy and get a bunch of, robots. You could get nothing, but this is especially stronger with a lot of those cards that came from Dungeons & Dragons, where you're rolling like D12s and D20s, where you're much more often to roll a 6 or higher and get that extra treasure as well. This guy is actually really strong. You just have to build around him a little bit. We have the Gary clone. He's a clone. He's a human citizen for 1 and a white. With squad 2, whenever he attacks, each creature you control named Gary clone gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It's Gary! So yeah, you spend like 6-8 mana, you get 3 or 4 of these guys, they attack, they each bump each other up. So if you attack with 4 of them, and you have 4 Garys out, you're going to get +12 to all of your Gary. Your 4 Garys attacking are going to be 15 threes. So yes, this card can get out of hand. Beware of Gary. I would flinch if he showed up with several of Garys on the board. They could do some work quickly. We have Butch Deloria, the Tunnel Snake, a legendary creature, human rogue for 1 and a black. He's a 2/2 with menace. When Butch Deloria, Tunnel Snake, attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other rogue and or snake you control. And you can pay 1 and a black to put a menace counter on another target creature. It becomes a rogue in addition to its other types. So this seems like it'll be a really strong addition for the new Commander decks coming out in the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. The Outlaw specifically deck, as it is a rogue, it will go right into that and get yourself some neat advantage. We have a Ruthless Rad Rat. Oh god, that is one ugly mofo. It is a 2/2 rat for 1 a black and a black with squad. You can exile 4 cards from your graveyard. Squad is an additional cost to cast this spell. You may pay its squad cost any number of times. When this enters the battlefield, create that many tokens that are copies of it. It's a 2/2 with menace. Okay, so you can pay 3 mana, play this guy, exile a bunch of cards from your graveyard, and you'll get several token copies of this. So if you have 8 cards in your graveyard, you'll get 2, and this multiplies. Mid to late game having 20 cards, you can exile 20 of them, get 5. Getting 5, 6 bodies for 3 mana, really strong. So I wouldn't sleep on this in the right deck. This seems like it could be very powerful to use, especially if you care about exiling your graveyard. We have Craig Boone, the Novak Guard. It's a 3/3 legendary creature for 1 red and a white with reach and lifelink. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put 2 quest counters on Craig. And then, when you do, Craig deals damage equal to the number of quest counters on it to up to 1 target creature, unless that creature's controller has Craig deal that much damage to them. So your opponents can choose to save their creatures. He's okay. I don't think he's that great. He's playable, but not great. We have Legate Leonis, Caesar's Ace. 2/2 for 2 black and a red. He's a legendary human soldier. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a 10th of the creatures they control, rounded up. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a creature, put a 1/1 counter on Legate. So he comes in, each of your opponents are going to sacrifice at least 1 creature. A 10th of the creatures they control is not that many. Because again, if you have 10 creatures, your opponent's only going to sacrifice 1. If your opponent has 3 creatures, they're still going to sacrifice 1. Because again, it's rounding up. If your opponent has 1 creature, they're still going to sacrifice 1. So this comes in for 4 mana. Let's say each opponent sacrifices a creature. He's going to get 3 counters. So he's a 5/5 for 4 mana, basically, that made everybody sack at least 1. I think this guy's playable, especially in the right deck, just because, it makes each opponent sacrifice creatures, and you could hit more, Hypothetically, your opponent could have 20 creatures, and you'll make him sacrifice 2. But if your opponent has 20 creatures, you're probably losing if you're playing this, not a real board away. The other 18 are going to come at your face. We have Light Glow Gourmand. It is a 2/2 human noble for 2 white and a black. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 human soldier creature tokens. At the beginning of your end step, if another human died under your control this turn, you create a food token. Yeah, it's okay. Not great, but okay. We have Charisma Bobblehead. It's one of the Bobblehead mana rocks. You can pay 4, add X, or create X/1/1 white soldier creature tokens for X is the number of Bobbleheads you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So really, you don't even really want to activate this card until you've got at least 4 Bobbleheads, because you're spending 4 mana to get 4 1/1/1s. That's the minimum value you want to do for this. You're not going to pay 4 mana just for itself. And hopefully you've got more of the Bobbleheads on the board to be able to get greater value and create more than just 4 of these. Speaking of Bobbleheads, we have the Luck Bobblehead. You can pay 1, roll X 6-sided dice, where X is the number of Bobbleheads you control. Create a tapped treasure token for each even result. If you rolled 6 exactly 7 times, you win the game. So this is the gimmick. You could win with the Luck Bobblehead, but that's pretty low chances. We have the Survivor's Medkit as an equipment for 1. You can pay 1 and tap it and choose one that hasn't been chosen. You can draw a card, create a food token, and then target player loses all rad counters, sacrifice Survivor's Medkit. So for basically 3 mana, you get to draw a card and create a treasure or create a food token. In the right deck, some people might want that. The last effect, removing the rad counters, is very limited, so I don't think that in itself is the acknowledgeable ability. So I don't know if this really sees that much play. It's okay, it's not great. Impassioned Orator. Whenever another creature is battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Alright, yeah, we're in reprint territory here. It's like, I thought that was a reprint. Intangible Virtue, Bastion of Remembrance. Deadly Dispute, Morbid Opportunist, always a great draw card. Pitless Plunderer, General's Enforcer, Heroic Reinforcements, Wear and Tear, Arcane Signet, Skull Clamp, Soul Ring, Talisman of Conviction, Talisman of Hierarchy, Talisman of Indulgence, Ashbarians, Command Tower. Alright. Skip through these lands. Alright, new cards. We have Aradesh the Founder, legendary human soldier for 2 and a white. Enlist, as long as this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. When you do, add its power to this creature until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control attacks, if it enlisted a creature this combat, the creature that attacked gains double strike until end of turn. If that creature's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. So you can attack with this guy, you enlist at least a 3-power creature so that he has 4 or greater power to draw a card. And it's going to gain double strike as long as it enlists a creature. So Really where you want this to be is, you play like a 3-power or 3-1 on turn 2 or turn 4. You play this guy on turn 3. No, you want to build attacks. You play 3-1 on turn 2. You play this guy on turn 3. Turn 4, you enlist. You tap that 3-1. You attack with this guy as a 4-4 with a double strike, and you get to draw a card. It's a lot to build around, and he draws cards and double strikes. If you have other guys in the list, it could be okay too. But I don't think it's that great. It's decent. It's definitely decent. Battle of Hoover Dam is an enchantment for 3 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, choose NCR or Legion. NCR, at the beginning of your end step, return target creature card of mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Or Legion, whenever a creature you control dies, put 2/1 counters on target creature you control. I think probably the NCR is the better one, especially for those weenie decks. You just get to bring a creature back at the beginning of each end step. The finality counter means it'll be gone once it's gotten rid of this time, but still, that's a lot of advantage right there. And now we have one of the Overseers of Vault 76, Legendary Human Advisor, for 2 and a white. It's a 3/3. Whenever Overseer of Vault 76 or another creature with power 3 or less enters the battlefield under your control, put a quest counter on it. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may remove 3 quest counters from among permanents you control. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. So especially if you got a lot of quest counters, this can take off and pump your board pretty easy. Security Squadron is a 2/2 for 1 and a white artifact robot. With Squad 3, it has Vigilance. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Okay, so it comes in, it's going to get when this enters the battlefield trigger, create that many tokens that are copies of it. So let's say you paid Squad 3 twice, you'll get 2 token copies. They're going to see each other with that effect as well, so all 3 of them are going to target each other for the counters. So that'll be +6/+6 to the 2 tokens coming in. So I mean, it's playable in the right deck. Again, it's okay. I don't think it's great, but somebody can prove me wrong. Build around. We have Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. She is a 3/4 legendary creature for 3 and a white. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on Sierra and create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, target creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of quest counters on Sierra. Oh man, she could do a lot more work if it wasn't the trigger was 1 or more creatures, because you only get 1 quest counter on her, even if you have 7 creatures hit. Yeah, she's a lot to build to get that effect. Alright, we have Vault 75, Middle School. It's a 4-drop saga. The first chapter is exile all creatures with power 4 or greater, and the second and third sagas are put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So good for those mini decks. You just blow up the board and then you pump all your stuff. Go weenies. Yes Man, the personal Securitron, is a legendary artifact creature for 2 and a white. He's a 2/2. You can tap him. Target opponent gains control of Yes Man. When they do, you draw 2 cards and you put a quest counter on Yes Man. Activate only during your turn. And when Yes Man leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tapped 1/1 white soldier creature token for each quest counter on it. So the only thing I don't like about this guy is that you can give it to an opponent. They can just choose not to give it to anybody. And then just trade it for a blocker. And then alright, you got to draw 2 cards for 3 mana in white. And then if it died, you get a 1/1 token. So, I mean, in white, again, that's not... I mean, drawing 2 for 3 mana is decent in white, but it's a delayed, because you got to wait till your next turn, you got to give it to an opponent, and yeah, I'm not sold on this card. I am sold on this card, though. We have Vats. It's an instant with split second. You choose any number of target creatures with equal toughness. Destroy the chosen creatures. So you destroy a bunch of 3 toughness creatures, 4 toughness creatures, everything that's tied up. Your opponent's got a bunch of 1/1s or whatever. This is allow you to be able to blow up a wide range of creatures for 4 mana and split second. Split second is always a strong ability. Wasteland Raider is a human mercenary, 4/3 for 2 and 2 black with Squad 2. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So another one of those merciless marauder type effects. where he comes in. Everybody sacrifice creatures. So, you know, you get multiple bodies of this guy. You make multiple more copies. Everybody sacrifices more creatures. But I mean, really, most of the time you're sacrificing these guys to themselves. So you're spending like 6 mana to make everybody sacrifice 2. Yeah, this guy's okay. I'm not sold on it being great, but it's okay. We have a Mysterious Stranger, is a human rogue for 2 and 2 red, 3/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, for each graveyard with an instant or sorcery card in it, exile target instant or sorcery card from that graveyard. If 2 or more cards are exiled this way, choose one of them at random and copy it. You may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. So you don't get to choose what it is, but you do get to cast an instant or sorcery for only 4 mana from one of your opponent's graveyards. So, you know, depending on what they've played, you could definitely net and get some real value. But again, at random, you don't get to pick, so that sometimes sucks. We have Powder Ganger. It's a 2/2 human rogue for 2 and a red with squad 2. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact. So, I mean, he's only okay. I mean, we've seen a lot of the 3 mana effects over the years. 3 mana, 2/2 body that comes and destroys an artifact. And this one just has squad, so you can pay and get more, but that's not necessarily a great effect. I'd rather spend 5 mana, Vandal Blast, and blow up every artifact my opponents have. We have Rose, the Cutthroat Raider. She looks like a violent little robot there. Legendary artifact, creature for 2 and 2 red with first strike. She's a 3/2. Raid, at the end of combat on your turn, if you attacked this turn, create a junk token for each opponent you attacked. And whenever you sacrifice a junk, add red. So at least as somebody who utilizes the junk in a good way to be able to net mana and utilize that card advantage you're getting from it by sacrificing those junk tokens. And then, you know, you hit your 3 opponents, you get 3 junk tokens, you sacrifice the 3 junk tokens, you exile the top 3, you get 3 red, you can use it to play those. I like this. It's a little more on the expensive side for only being a 3/2 for 4, but definitely playable. We have Thrill Kill Disciple. It's a human mercenary, 3/2 for 3. Squad 1, discard a card. When Thrill Kill Disciple dies, create a junk token. It's only okay. Wild Wasteland is an enchantment for 2 and a red. You skip your draw step. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. So I guess against the right decks, now you skipping draw means you can't get hurt by like Shieldred type effects, and then you're exiling the top 2 and being able to play those. So for decks that care about playing from the top, it's really strong as well. So could see play. Boomer Scrapper is a human soldier for 1 a black and a red. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you lose a life and create a junk token. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Boomer Scrapper. Alright, so great in those decks with treasures and whatnot. And the junk tokens are great as well, but this will get really easy, really quick. Really big, really easy, really quickly with treasure tokens. Colonel Autumn is a legendary human soldier, 2/3 for 1 a white and a black, with lifelink and exploit. Other legendary creatures you control have exploit. Whenever a creature you control exploits a creature, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Alright, so yeah, you can come in, especially with a token-related deck, your legendary creatures will just exploit other tokens, and then just make all your other dudes big. I like that. Definitely good for that go-wide legendary strategy. Desdomina, Freedom's Edge. She is a 3/4 for 2 a red and a white with Vigilance, legendary creature. Whenever Desdomina attacks, a target creature card in your graveyard that's an artifact or that has mana value 3 or less gains escape until end of turn. The escape cost is equal to its mana cost plus exile 2 other cards from your graveyard. So you can escape, play those cards, get them back. Okay, she's not bad. Elder Arthen Maxon, the legendary human knight, 4/2 for 1 white and a black. Creature tokens you control have training, and you can sacrifice another creature. Elder Arthur gains indestructible until end of turn. Alright, so as it makes it a little harder to kill, you can just sacrifice your tokens, and then he just doesn't die. I like that. Kellogg, the Dangerous Mind. He's got his cereal in the background somewhere, I'm sure. We have a 3/2 legendary creature with first strike and haste for 3 mana. When he attacks, you create a treasure token, and you can sack 5 targets, gain control of target creature for as long as you control Kellogg. Activate only as a sorcery. So again, really strong with those treasure matter decks. First strike, haste, 3 mana, 3/2. So he's aggressive. Being able to steal your opponent's stuff is very, very strong. So again, I like this guy a bit. We have McCready, Lamplight Mayor. Legendary human advisor, 1/3 for a white and a black. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attack, it gains Skulk until end of turn. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater attacks you, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this is great for those weenie decks because it makes all your guys hard to be blocked. And then it itself is also going to punish your opponents for having big dudes attacking you. We have the Nifton Lottery. It's a sorcery for 2 a black and a red. Choose a creature at random. You gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Then destroy all other creatures. So that's one way to, like, 4 mana, you wipe the board, but you get one thing to be able to swing at somebody. So that's amusing. Could definitely very fun, especially if you happen to save like one of your creatures that are on the board. But you could save your opponent's biggest creature, and then they get it back after you swung at somebody. So careful with this one, folks. That could definitely bite you in the butt. All right, we have Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty. She's got Tegrity. She's a 3/2 human knight for legendary human knight for 1 a red and a white. Battalion, when Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty and at least 2 other creatures attack, draw a card. Then you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from your hand on the battlefield tapped and attacking, where X is Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty's power. Man, so you got to attack with at least 2 other creatures, but you draw, and you get to put a creature card into play. She's really strong. Like, being able to cheat creatures in and get card advantage in red-white, that is a really good effect for only 3 mana. Even if you have to attack with 2 other creatures, that's just good. So we have Vault 11, The Voter's Dilemma. It's a saga for 2 a white and a black. The first chapter is for each opponent. You create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token, so usually you'll get 3. That's not a bad start for 4 mana. Chapters 2 and 3, each player secretly votes for up to 1 creature. Then those votes are revealed. If no creature got votes, each player draws a card. Otherwise, destroy each creature with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So vote, and there. Yeah, that's a tough one. Vote for who you don't want. Fuck, I don't know if I like that one. That would be a tough dilemma as voting. EDE, the Lonesome Eyebot, is a legendary artifact creature robot for 3 mana. It's a 2/1 flyer. Whenever you attack, if the number of attacking creatures is greater than the number of quest counters on EDE, then put a quest counter on it. You can pay 2, sacrifice EDE, draw a card, then draw an additional card for each quest counter on it. So basically, the floors, you get a 2/1 flyer that can pay 2, that sacrifices itself to draw a card. Or as it progresses, you can put counters on it as long as you're attacking with at least 3 creatures and you're not buffing this guy. Yeah, I don't know about this. Seems like too much work to draw a few cards. Desolated Mire. Diamond City. It's a land when it enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. You can tap it for colorless or tap it to remove a shield counter from Diamond City on a target creature. Activate only if 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Interesting. So you can only move the shield counter by getting multiple bodies on the field, but still, like, there are ways to be able to make tokens at instant speed or flash in bodies and suddenly give something a shield counter. I like that. Captain of the Watch. This is a reprint of the story here. 3/3 Vigilant for 6. Other soldiers you control have +1/+1 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. And then, yeah, Entrapment Maneuver. Hour of Reckoning. Alright, good old Keeper of the Cord. Kind of scroll through most of these reprints here. Black Market, always good to have, especially in these go wide decks. Lethal Schemes, a nice reprint. Definitely strong with that Connive. You tap 4 tokens, you blow up with a creature, they all get bigger. Solo Strategy, there's some making. Fervent Charge. 4 mana enchantment, both you guys. Good old Ruinous Ultimatum, best one-sided board wipe in the game. Yes, I know you can Cyclonic Rift at instant speed, but Ruinous Ultimatum just destroys them. Your opponent can't replay any of those, which is a big difference. Yeah, you can Cyclonic Rift, and you know Cyclonic Rift definitely annoys the hell out of people, but I don't think people had been Ruinous Ultimatumed enough to, in comparison, to understand that also having all of your stuff completely blown up. And then if your opponent didn't win the game with a Cyclonic Rift and it just kind of reset the board, you can still replay everything, where that's not the same with the Ultimatum. Alright, how many basics in this one? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 14 this one. Again, I feel like that's too many basics. We should only have like 3 of each in these 3 color decks. And more of the multicolor lands to make it easy to play stuff. Because again, so many 3-color and 2-color cards that you want to be able to play stuff on Curve. Alright, let's check out what we got here for our collector sample pack. See if we got anything sweet. I'm hoping for an awesome mythic, as this set has so many of them. Alright, drum roll. We get Rose, Cutthroat Raider, and her Borderless frame. Again, good card. And then our next card is the Alpha Deathclaw in its foil alternate art frame. I think this guy is really strong. 6/6 for 6, enters the battlefield or becomes monster, so you destroy target permanent. So it comes in, blows something up. You can pay, what is it, 7 mana? Yeah, 7 mana the next turn. Make it a 10/10, destroy something else, and then you're attacking with a 10/10 with Menace and Trample. This guy's going to see play. I think it's underrated at how strong this guy actually is. Alright, thank you for joining me, Planeswalkers. I'm always glad to have you here. Like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. I look forward to seeing you here on the next video.